Good morning. Sometimes people get confused between the theme and the main idea. So I'd like to teach you a little lesson that I hope will help you to shed some light on this subject matter. All right, the theme is the moral message. It's the lesson of the story. It's what the author wants you to take away from the story. Themes can be divided into chapters. Okay, you might have a theme about jealousy. So every story in that chapter will be about jealousy. You may have a theme about bravery. So every story in that unit will be about bravery. You may have stories that have the theme of hard work paying off. So a theme is like a moral message. It's the lesson of the story. It's what the author wants you to take away from it. But the main idea is more specific. It's mostly what the story is about. It varies. Like I said, it depends on what the story is about. The main idea can be found in the title of the story. Sometimes the main idea is in the first sentence. Sometimes it's in the last sentence of the story. Okay, so the theme is the message or the lesson the author wants you to learn from the story. Common topics for themes are courage, dreams, kindness, fears, equality, hope, differences, and friendship. So you will have a unit with stories that revolve around those themes. All right, and you're going to ask yourself, what did the characters learn? How did they grow or change? Why did the characters act in a certain way when you know the theme? So you can say, I know the theme is blank because the text says. Okay, so this is my anchor chart about theme. Theme is a message or lesson the author wants you to learn from the story. Common topics, courage, dreams, kindness, fears, equality, hope, differences, friendship. Okay? And you need to be able to say that you know the theme based on evidence from the story. You can say, I know the theme is blank because the text says blank. You need to be able to support your suggestion of what the theme is. Okay, let's see. Another thing that I find boys and girls have a question about is implicit. Implicit. All right, implicit means that you have to infer something. It means that it's not spoken out. It's not just in plain view. It's questions you have to infer. It's not stated in the text, in other words. So it's the author and me questions. It's on my own questions. Those are implicit questions. They lead you to make inferences. All right, explicit questions. Those are questions that you can find directly in the text. Explicit means that it's explained. It's the right there questions. It's the think and search questions. It's spelled out for you. You can actually find it in the text. Okay, so the difference between implicit leads you to make inferences. Inferences is when you use what you know to figure out what you don't know. Okay, that's an inference. So let's see if I have an anchor chart for inferences. Okay, we don't, let me see. Don't see it just yet. But the point is that you want to be actively engaged in the text because you don't want to just read and just call words and don't comprehend what you're reading. So what I'm suggesting is I want to make you aware of strategies so that you can better comprehend what you're reading. Another comprehension strategy is to make predictions. When you predict something, you try to guess what's going to happen next. So a prediction is a guess that you make by using text or picture clues. Okay, there's my anchor chart. You could say, I think this story is going to be about because. Okay, so you're going to use picture clues or you're going to use text clues to help you figure out what's going to happen next. All right, before reading, you can look at the title and the illustrations and you can figure out what the story may be about. During reading, you need to stop and you need to predict what will happen next. After reading, you need to confirm or adjust your prediction. Were you right? Okay, so prediction is a strategy that helps you to comprehend your text. Okay, and we know that there are several types of text that you may get information from or you may read just for pleasure. Some genres include realistic fiction, historical fiction, and science fiction, fantasy, mystery, poetry, tall tales, fairy tales, or myths, fables, legends, informational, biography, and autobiography. Those are different kinds of categories of text. Okay. All right, the nonfiction text structure. For example, you have a description. Is this describing something? Okay, you can also have sequence. Is this telling me the order of events? Okay, for example, you may have sequential information and it's organized 1, 2, and 3. It's dated in order before, after, and finally. Another example of text structure in nonfiction is to be able to compare and contrast. If you compare something, you tell how they are alike. If you contrast two things, you're telling how they are different. You may compare and contrast by using a Venn diagram. In the spheres, you can tell how they are different. And when they join or when they connect, you can tell their commonality. That's a Venn diagram. Another aspect of nonfiction text structure is problem and solution. You need to ask yourself, is this telling how a problem was solved? Okay, so you have to be able to identify the problem, and then you need to be able to find evidence that shows how it was solved. Another aspect of nonfiction text structure is cause and effect. Is this explaining why something happened? Okay, cause and effect. Remember, cause is what happened, and the effect is the result of what happens. Okay, when a teacher asks you to retell, sometimes, at the end of an assessment, the teacher may ask you to retell the story in your own words. She wants to know if you know who is in the story. That is the characters. She wants to know if you know where does the story take place. That is the setting. She wants to know if you can recant the order of events. And you need to be able to use sequential words such as first, next, then, and last. Okay, these are just aspects of language arts. I'm kind of going a little fast, but I want to shed some light on things that may be confusing to you. Okay, let's look at main idea. The main idea is what the text is about. You have several clues. What is the text mostly about? You can look at the titles and the headings. Sometimes the main idea is stated in the first or last sentence. You can also look at pictures, and you can look for clue words that are used repeatedly. This will help you to identify the main idea. All right, this is talking about the plot. All right, in the exposition, Willie and Wally Wolf were on the run and they needed a hideout. All right, so the rising action in the story, they dressed up as sheep. They were eager to get the sheep for dinner, and they met Betty Mutton and two of her friends. The climax, that's the high point of the story. Betty Mutton decided that they were imposters. She decided they were not actual sheep. The following action, Willie and Wally were exposed as wolves when they were sheared with other sheep. And the resolution was Willie and Wally headed for the hills because they were forced to wait for their hair to regrow. Okay, so that's an excerpt from Bad Boys, and it's talking about the plot. That's the gist of the story. That's what the story is really about. That's the meat of the story. And the climax is like the rising action. It's where everything it's leading up to something. Okay, and it's usually leading up to an exposition. And then after someone is exposed, then there's the falling action, and there's a resolution where you will conclude what happened in the story. That's just a snapshot of what a plot is. All right, the plot also, you can describe the plot by talking about the beginning, the middle, and end of the story. In the beginning, you need to be able to identify the characters. You need to be able to identify the setting. In the middle of the story, you need to be able to tell what has happened to the characters. That will be the problem. What has happened to the story, to the characters in the story. And the end of the plot, How did the characters solve the problem? Did the characters change? We're going to stop right here. Have a good day.